Russian top secret spy story revealed. A very nice Kyiv Independent investigation being put in easy terms for you. Next topic, Ukrainian justice reaches Borisovglebsk city in Russia via drones. See the result in our episode. And can Ukraine join NATO on a fast track while its territory is occupied by Russia? Good afternoon. These topics in more detail in our daily episode with me, Henry Keane, and UATV English, doing our best as usual to bring the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. Russian FSB, a successor to the notorious Soviet KGB, plays a crucial role in Vladimir Putin's regime, as we all know. Following the invasion of Ukraine, Sergei Korolyov, FSB's first deputy director and the second most influential figure in the country's main security agency, was amongst the Russian officials targeted by international sanctions. Well, at least we thought so, as according to the Kyiv Independent outlet media, international sanctions lists contain mistakes in the identifying actual Sergei Korolyov's personal data. In easy terms, it means that Western personal sanctions were imposed on a wrong person. This photo that you're about to see of Sergei Korolyov shows the stereotypical image of how Russian Secret Service officer might look like. Now, this one is real Sergei Korolyov, photo taken from his account in Russian social network Classmates, and that one, more of Korolyov from the same source with his former KGB school classmates. Well, please take a deeper look into Kyiv Independent investigation for more information, but it is amazing what you can find out by just comparing an open sources information. My point is that if all it takes for a second big man in FSB to avoid sanctions is to post a fake photos web, well, how effective will these actions work after all? How much do intelligence services know about what actually is happening on the ground in dictatorial regimes? The American CIA recently published instructions on how to contact them safely in the languages of these very countries on their respective social networks. The last such action by the USA was aimed at the Russians, and CIA said that it was very successful, and that is why the CIA wants to make sure that people in other authoritarian regimes know that they are open to cooperation. I wonder if the CIA, with all its omnipotent might, is aware of a bare fact. The vast majority of North Koreans, 99.9% of them, simply do not have access to the internet. On the other hand, maybe the US is targeting so-called shuttle traders in North Korea who unofficially cross the border with China and might have some access of VPN networks there. Well, this way or the other, with all these spies and sanctions imposed on fake people, or even worse, wrong people that do exist actually, one thing is more or less clear: if you don't look, you simply don't see. Drones operated by Ukraine's defense forces attacked the Borisovglebsk military airfield in Russia's Voronezh Oblast on the night from 2nd to 3rd October. Ukrainian Special Operation Forces and other branches of Ukraine's defense forces struck warehouses with guided aerial bombs were actually containing parking and lots of Su-35 and Su-34 fighter jets and fuel storage sites overnight. The Russians have been using this airfield to launch frequent and devastating glide bombs attacks to attack Ukrainian territory. First photos and videos emerged on Russian social media at the middle of the night. Large number of drones, loud explosions, and fire breaking out near the local airfield. Satellite imagery gives 4 fires on the territory of Borisovglebsk city. There's actually not much to add to this, in regard really by one thing. Ukraine will be producing 1 million drones or so in 2025, and that means, dear world, brace yourself for more videos like that. Interview on UATV English, Maxim Jehun, political expert here at Good Politics Media. Hello, Maxim. Hello, do you hear me all right? Is the sound on? Everything is good?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You won't believe that. What a technical level we have. Let's go. Let's go straight forward to the question. The international media outlet Financial Times recently found out some, as they say, very important and specific signs. Well, let me quote that for you. Preliminary signs that United States President Joe Biden can give his consent to change the status of Ukraine's application to NATO membership before leaving. Maxim, what are these signs? Do you know?
Yeah, I would start from that article on Financial Times. From my point of view, it was quite depressive because majority of the topics discussed there were not as many Ukrainians can see them, starting from the position of Ukraine at the front line and finishing the situation on international arena, but
Right.
the information about possible change of position from American Biden's administration is a good sign for us. I would say that interestingly, that Financial Times thinks that NATO, as a collective institution, takes into account only position of the United States, and that's not right. Of course, we understand that America plays a very important role in NATO, but from the other side, we can say that there are many European countries that can influence any decisions regarding Ukraine and any other countries.
Right.
But we
But
understand that American political position is crucial in this context. So I don't know exactly what the signs
right.
are, but from my point of view, the problem is that the presidential administration now has a key task, and unfortunately, it's not the end of the war in Ukraine, but the victory of over Biden's main political opponent, Donald Trump. Therefore, any radical changes in the current president's rhetoric on Ukraine could threaten Kamala Harris' victory. So, in the nearest future, probably we should not expect for any announcements or changes in their rhetoric, as long as we understand that any change of position of the White House can lead to
Okay.
the
Right.
not to the best result of these elections. But after the end of this presidential election, we can expect that President Biden can feel more free in making any decisions that
Of
will
course.
help Ukraine to prevail on the battlefield. That's why I think that President Biden might think that giving Ukraine an invitation to join NATO after finishing this war can be one of the scenarios which would help Ukraine to feel more confident in international arena, and especially on the battlefield. Because in this case, will show Putin that despite all his tries to occupy more and more Ukrainian territories, he will not take Ukraine in general, and he will have to deal with NATO as an institution, but not with a much smaller country like Ukraine is.
Well, first of all, Maxim, well, thank you for your answer. I wish very much that next president of the United States, whoever that would be, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, and I wish Biden would have you as an advisor. I mean, you can advise him that we first have to finish a war, but I also understand his administration because Biden is a very big team. All right, so they have to win over Trump and then make the decisions. But let me slide to my next question. What is that anyway? A way to deter Russian creeping occupation of Ukraine, setting the fence? Like, if Biden is ready to take Ukraine with the territories that are now occupied, what does it mean for us? What would stop Putin from having more territories? And that's then the NATO would actually use Article 5 after that. Do you believe in it?
Yeah, and another important question is what would be the response of NATO to these problems caused by Russia
Well,
in
there
the
you go.
future? Because we have many situations when Russian rockets and the Russian drones they land on NATO territories, like in Romania. We faced it many times, and there was no response from NATO countries and from NATO as an institution. Of course, they show that they're not pleased with this news, but at the same time, they do not do any other steps to prevent further attacks from Russian Federation. We can see many problems with Russian aircrafts over Alaska, for example, as we could see a few days ago. And that all shows that NATO countries are not as confident in their power and their ability to stop Putin as we expect NATO is in this situation. And my main concern is that even in case if Ukraine enters and joins NATO partly, and Russia, for example, launches many rockets on Ukrainian cities that are controlled by Ukrainian government. What should be NATO's reaction, taking into account their reaction now for the attacks on Romanian territories, for example? And that's a very important question. And I think that many NATO leaders, they are scared of this perspective. And that's why we can face many challenges during this joining period to the North Atlantic bloc.
Yes, I agree with that. Let me express my main concern. My main concern is that if Ukraine enters NATO with the territories occupied, even if that happens, I can't imagine actually how that happens, how the Ukrainian nation will actually allow. Maybe, my opinion is not important, but that happens. What if Russia breaches all the negotiations and goes further? Do you, as a professional in politics, believe that NATO will go through Article 5 then? Or it will be another Alaska, another Poland, another nothing?
Yeah. So I'm not confident in the reaction from the NATO side. And I think that that's one of the main problems that NATO leaders are facing now. And probably they do not have enough power and courage to answer to all the threats they have from different international regimes, including Russia and including China and other authoritarian countries in the world. So I'm concerned as well as you are, and I'm not sure if the reaction will be taken by Western leaders in this situation. And that's why I think that joining NATO without having territorial integrity of Ukraine is possible scenario, first of all, for many Ukrainians, because there is another question in this case. Isn't it legitimization of those occupied territories?
Yes.
We are joining NATO just with some regions of Ukraine. And that's a very important question. Of course, we have Western German model starting from the late 20th century, but it was very different situation from what we have now. And the threats from the Russian Federation is extremely different from what we could observe in late 20th century.
I absolutely agree. You actually just you read my mind. That was my next question. How would it happen? We don't know. And what would that mean for Ukraine and for the West? And what would that would mean for Russia? But my absolutely last question for tonight would be Mark Rutte first visit is to Ukraine. What is that? Just a symbol, just a gesture, or maybe this is a could be a background, a ground for a careful hope on everything that Ukraine actually wants to get from NATO, which is long-range restrictions to be lifted and to becoming a part of a NATO. How do you actually take this visit? What is this?
First of all, I would say that Zelensky and Rutte, they have a quite good relationship starting from the premiership of Rutte in Netherlands, and they are in a really good relationship together. The second point is that it was very important for Rutte to show his leadership in NATO as an institution. We understand that there are some leaders inside of the bloc, but at the same time, Secretary of NATO is one of the most important persons in this institution, and that's the personality that makes the main temp of changes inside of the North Atlantic organization. And it was important for him to show that NATO is still with Ukraine, and that he personally believes that Ukraine should be part of the North Atlantic organization. And also, I just watched a few words he said during this visit to Kyiv, and he said that Ukraine should have the right to attack Russian territories and Russian military objects on the Russian territory. And that's a really important shift of views from NATO as an institution. And I hope that leaders of the countries that are in NATO, will look at this as the opportunity to make this possible for Ukraine, as long as we know that now we look like the country that can oppose Russia with one hand behind our back, when we cannot use all the possibilities and all the instruments that Russia uses. And I hope that it will bring to the change of the views inside of the organization, and that finally President Biden will help us to make it possible for Ukraine to join NATO without some territories occupied, but with full 24 regions of Ukraine and Republic of Crimea.
Thank you so very much. I also hope for that. And I also have a slight hope that Mark Rutte will be actually that trigger that will trigger the changes in NATO, most needed changes in NATO, because this organization definitely needs some changes, and maybe we can be the example for them. I mean the country of Ukraine. And at that point, I thank you so very much, Maxim, for your expertise. I would love to have a lot of questions discussed with you. We'll probably do it next time. Thank you so very much. Goodbye. Well, that was it for this episode and for today. Thank you so very much for your precious time. It was me, Henry Keane, and my team at UATV English. We did our best to deliver you the hard truth in easy terms. So please don't be shy. Like, subscribe, and comment in return. Your voice really matters, as it in turn helps Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Stay safe and tuned for more. Glory to Ukraine, and see you soon. Goodbye.